Hey there. Welcome to this month's episode of the Fraternus Forge podcast. This is a forum for young adult Catholic men and women to come together in conversations on topics of faith and morality, for as iron sharpens iron, so one man or woman sharpens another. Really excited that you're here with us. Our guest this month is Jimmy Emmons. Jimmy is originally from New York. He currently works as a recruiter for a university here in the States, and he is currently based out of Nashville, Tennessee, where he's part of our young adult Catholic community that's really been thriving here over the past couple of years. And I think the thing that really stands out to me the most about Jimmy, aside from him being a very logical, very charismatic, fun person to talk to, is his story of transformation. And you'll hear him talk a little bit more about this during the episode, but knowing that there was a point in his life where he looked at the difference between who he was and who he felt like God was calling him to be, how he stepped into that space, took responsibility for that difference, asked for God's help, and started aiming upwards. Like, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And I'm really, really blessed to know Jimmy, and we're lucky to have him on the podcast. And I feel like that's a really good segue into the topic for this month, which is preparing yourself for your future spouse. So I know inevitably our conversations kind of wind up talking about dating, and I know this episode does the same thing, but we do begin by saying, at the end of the day, we're really aiming to be good, holy husbands and wives, and this episode talks a lot about that call to adventure that Jimmy experienced and sort of standardizes it into: who are you today? Who do you feel like God is calling you to be? How do you close that gap with God's help? And then we do transition in the later part of the episode into the dating process, and specifically the openness that is really helpful in that process. So not necessarily, they are my spouse, like from the moment I met them, love at first sight, but hey, I feel like I see potential. I see good in this person. I want to learn more about them and spend some more time, because dating is the process whereby you figure out whether someone is your spouse. There's that. And then there's also just graciousness that I feel like we all need to maintain during the process, which takes a couple of different forms as well. There's graciousness in the sense that you affirm the other person for the stuff that they do right in the process, to encourage them and say, like, hey, I know this is a difficult process. I know this is disappointing to hear that, hey, I might not really feeling like proceeding with you, but like, I want to encourage you to keep pursuing your vocation. There's that front. And then there's also graciousness in the sense of, if you're the one who's being let down or something doesn't go the way that you want it to, not letting that disappointment become an excuse to lash out against the other person, become bitter, etc. So yeah, this is a really good conversation. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. I want to encourage you again, if you find these episodes helpful, please send in ideas for future episodes. I really want this to be a forum that's useful and helpful to you. And the way that we get there is by you sending in ideas, because like, I can guess at what I think is helpful based on conversations that I'm having, based on what my guest each month wants to talk about. But the way that I know it's going to be helpful is if you send in ideas. So yeah, send those ideas to me. I'm Mathew McCloskey on GroupMe, last name MCCLOSKEY. You can also send those to fraternusforge@gmail.com. And that's about it. Thank you again so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and listening each month. You rock. You're awesome. Let's jump into it.
It's not so much about going on dates, because you can go on 100 dates with 100 different women, and that means nothing if there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Or you could go on one date and it goes really well, and then you go on a second and a third, and then you get into a relationship, and then so on and so forth. You end up getting married and having kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's
not a one-to-one correlation with like the number of dates that you go on, because I know plenty of people who like had no dating experience and are now like blissfully married.
Yeah, they're blissfully married. Yeah.
And then I also know the inverse of that.
Exactly. Like, in a sense, you don't want to be a good dater.
Yeah, that's not the objective.
Yeah, a good dater is a person who's married. And so I don't want to say like, too much experience, but part of it is having the courage to get out there is one thing. That's a good aspect. Some things I've seen is, it's like, when you're going into this scenario of, I'm going to go on a date, it's like, what are you looking for? Mm-hmm. Right? And so as a man, when I'm looking, let's say I'm interested in a girl and I ask them out, right? Or ask her out. For a first date, my preparation is typically, I just want to see if I can have fun with this person. No one is themselves on a first date at all. It takes a little bit to warm up. You kind of have to, see how you balance with the other person. And then you kind of go from there. A first date is a terrible way. It sounds funny, but it's almost a terrible way of getting to know somebody because that's when they're least themselves. And so sometimes it takes a date or two or even three to really get to know somebody because, you might be nervous or they might be nervous or not even nervous, but, you don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know if they're stressed out or if they just got out of a relationship. It's like, all right, let's find some common ground. But the idea that we were discussing, come back to that main point, was how to prepare yourself for your future spouse, right? And so this,
because there's you can do all this stuff to prepare for dates, but that's such. If you look at the overall timeline of your vocation, dating is such a small fragment of it. In theory, it's much smaller in theory than some people are together 30, 40, 50 years.
Oh yeah, if you think a 30-minute conversation is enough to determine whether or not you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, you're probably wrong. You might be right. You're probably wrong.
Right. And so this is a reprioritization.
Yeah, it's a reprioritization.
Let's focus on the big thing.
So instead of trying to find someone who fits you, you need to improve yourself. Is my mentality.
How do I become a good?
How do I become a good spouse to somebody else?
Yep.
Right. And so I was really taken with this idea, particularly about 4 years ago. I'll tell you a story. So I went through a pretty bad breakup a couple of years ago. Out of fairness to her, I'm not going to go into any detail. And also my community that I had went through, I'll just say, some traumatic events. It was very bad. Not going to go into detail.
Some upheaval, sure.
Yeah, it just wasn't good. That's all I'm going to say, just out of respect for and the privacy of other people.
Perfect.
And the only way I could really heal from that was to remove myself from that situation. But in so doing, I lost the vast majority of my friends that I had made over the course of years. My closest friends from college, I didn't even get an invite to their wedding. It was we hung out, for 3 years straight. Didn't even get invited to their wedding. 2 years later, I had to make a clean cut.
Yeah.
And it was tough to do that, but in so doing, I was able to begin the healing process of all the difficulties that I had gone through. The problem was I didn't really know how to deal with it, and I lost direction for my life. Where it was, there was a time I had was discerning the priesthood for many years, and I lost the relationship, and I was like, Lord, I have dedicated so much of my life to you, and now I don't know where to go. I think this was about 2018, 2019. No, 2018. And I ended up getting very, very depressed because I had no bearings. I was working a dead-end job. I lost my friends, lost all my closest relationships.
It wasn't really an anchor, or it seemed
there was nothing left. Yeah. I was cut off and alone, right? And when I turned to God to pray, and I would say, Lord, I'm completely lost. I have no where the heck am I going here? I got nothing. I went from that springtime of all these graces and consolations were so readily available. I was praying constantly, and then I turned to God, and I just felt nothing.
Just that aridity.
Absolute, yeah. And so it was a bit of crisis. I had a bit of a crisis of faith, and
can I jump in there
really
quick? I heard someone say recently that, and this has been encouraging because if I'm being real, I'm kind of in a season like that right now. Not like upheaval, and I guess maybe in some regards, but that season of aridity where everything's just really dry.
Yeah.
And I heard, and there's no, you sort of go to prayer with God, and it's you meditate on the Word, or you adore Him in the Eucharist, and there's none of the fuzzies, the consolations. It's just sort of empty, silent.
Dude, I like the fuzzies.
The fuzzies are great.
Fuzzies are great.
I do enjoy the fuzzies.
Don't underestimate the fuzzies. All right.
But I heard someone say that, it's in those times when God is actually doing the most important work in your spirit. Yes. There's work that cannot be perceived by the senses that God's doing. And I just found that, I found that to be comforting. It still sucks. I want the fuzzies sometimes. Yeah. But they're just, when I don't get them, it's okay, I know God is still working.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. Where it's you can't sense the presence of God, but He's doing all of the work in you still.
Yes.
just because you can't sense it. And that's a very big part of, I believe it's Ignatian spirituality, where it's, Lord, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust that you're taking me to the place.
No, that you're doing something.
Yeah, you're doing something,
Continue.
Remind me where I was there.
You were talking about how you had lost all of these good things in your life.
I lost all these good things in my life, and I got severely depressed. I gained a ton of weight. I stopped hanging out with people. I didn't really know what direction to go in. And I ended up, one day, I went to a party. Thank God I was invited. I was a loser back then. And I got invited to a party, and I sat down on a couch, and this girl sat across from me. And I tell you what, Mathew, maybe to this day, I haven't seen a woman that beautiful. Okay, she knocked my socks off, and she was a lot of fun. And I went, what the heck am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
I have, I was just in a car accident like a couple weeks prior, and my car was totaled. So I had to replace my car, but I was just being lazy about getting it replaced. I had a dead-end job where nothing was going to happen with this job. I knew that nothing was going to happen with this job. Let's see. And I gained a ton of weight, and I looked at myself. I looked at the manner in which I was dressed, and I thought, I am so unprepared to ask this person out. And let me tell you, dude, that hit me like a sledgehammer. Where I went, wait a second, hold up. And what happened is, and I believe the Lord was behind this, is it reoriented my life. Not so much her. It's not so much about her, but rather like what she represented in that moment, right? Where it's like, I never want to be in that situation again where I encounter someone who just, blows me away, and I don't have, I don't want to say the gumption, but I don't have the position to really be in pursuit.
I think positioning is really important. There's like a big delta between like the kind of guy who she would respond to, and this, we're speaking in hypothetical. We don't know exactly who she would respond to, but like there are some things that
they're universal truths.
Universal truths,
and that every woman's looking for and every guy's looking for. And so I kind of went home and thought about it later. And I just, wow, I've got to get my crap together.
Yeah.
I looked at my bed, which was an air mattress, and I was like, dude, I'm in my 20s. Why the heck am I sleeping on an air mattress? And so I made a plan.
I love that you slept on an air mattress. I had an air mattress phase for a little while too.
A lot of guys have an air mattress phase. Where you just get out of college and you're just broke, and it's like, oh shoot, like, what do you mean I gotta pay for the place I live in? This is ridiculous. $800 a month in rent. What?
Like, and you go to like a mattress store. It's like, that's how many $100? I can buy one of these on Amazon. $80.
I got about $350 for you. And no, it's like air mattress. Yeah, I'm good with that. Every guy goes through it, and then you get your little TV and it's on the ground,
right?
And you have nothing else.
That's
the life, man. I look back on that fondly.
Michael Scott from The Office.
Oh, the
plasma screen.
Yeah.
I got a plasma screen. It's just like, you
can pull it out 1 inch and put it back in. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so I decided to just put my life together over that conversation. And so about 2-3 months had gone by, and I was doing better at work. I had gotten a promotion. Then I was in the process of getting another promotion to manage like a whole team. The problem was that job was just a train wreck. A lot of garbage going on in management. I didn't want to be there.
Yep.
So I went, all right, I need a new car. I'm going to find a new job, something that's a bit more stable, not so hectic. The turnover rate was obscene. There's no stability when there's a high turnover rate.
Yep.
One of the first questions I ask in an interview is, or not one of the first questions, I should say one of the most important questions I ask in an interview is, how's your turnover rate? When was the last person in this department let go? Just because, that stability is extremely important.
I've been in jobs. I was in one job maybe 3 years ago where leadership had like this kind of town hall, whatever, company-wide meeting type thing. And there was a lot of drama in management as well. And I remember our CEO or whoever standing there and being like, we just want to like leave an open door. Like, if you have feedback on why the company's like keeps losing people, we want to hear it. And I'm just like, your culture sucks.
Yeah, your culture is atrocious.
Yeah. And then that sort of breeds instability, and people have higher workloads. So
and what's interesting is it's top down too.
Yeah.
So if if you have a manager and they're, I don't want to say toxic because that word's way overused, but if you have a work environment where, your manager is demanding, every second of every second, or every part of every second, you don't have even an opportunity to breathe. You're working as hard as you possibly can,
and it's still piling.
Up.
Yep.
And half of the people are quitting. And so all of their work gets put onto you, and you have to make up the difference. Mm-hmm. It was just bad.
It's a mess.
Yeah. So getting to finding a good job was something that was really paramount.
Yeah.
So what happened was I went to my friend's wedding, and I got this new suit, and I thought it looked great. And then the next day, I saw a picture of myself in the suit in which I thought I looked great, and I looked like a balloon had exploded in my chest. I was very fat. Mm-hmm. It was tough, and I went, all right, this is bad. So I came up with a game plan of, I'm going to find a new job. With this new job, I need to make more money so that I can buy just ridiculously healthy food, so I can eat healthy food only. Mm-hmm. And what I ended up doing was I ended up applying for a new job. It was pretty much out of nowhere too. I believe this is the grace of God. So I started praying. I said, Lord, I need a new job. And then a friend of mine texted me the next day and said, hey, we're hiring. And it was like a 30% increase in pay. The job was incredibly easy compared to what I was just doing. Just perfect.
Everything.
Everything. God just was, here's a path, man.
This one.
I was like, okay. Yeah. I interviewed and just crushed the interview. They really liked me. I really liked them. We negotiated a little bit, and I accepted the position. Awesome. I remember when that position was offered to me, I was actually at my other job, and I went into the other room and I cried because I was like, oh my gosh, I can finally
Life
have
raft.
A little.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a little bit of order.
Yeah.
I have order and I have direction.
Yeah.
Because I knew at that point, I got this sense. I don't know if it's from the Lord, maybe it's just my own imagination. I got the sense like the worst is over. Mm-hmm. And so with the new job, I was making a lot more money. So what I did was I ordered takeout every single day for every single meal. Ugh. You know what though? I had to do it because I didn't know how to cook back then.
Yeah.
Oh, learn how to cook. That's a great skill.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Can I add a note on that?
Ahead.
I think one of the advantages of learning how to cook is that you know exactly what's going into it.
Yes.
Because if you eat takeout, you'd have no idea of knowing, okay, how much sodium is in this. Yeah. There's no idea of knowing how lean the cut of meat they use is.
Oh, but the takeout I was getting was the same restaurant. It was a salad place. Mm-hmm. And so I got a chicken salad for every single meal for 6 months straight, and I didn't eat anything else. Nope, that's not true. I had snacks. I had high-protein yogurts, and I had cheese sticks.
Nice.
That's it. To the point my nickname at work was Chicken Salad. It is what it is. It's not the best nickname, but it is what it is.
I'm going to start calling you that.
I will.
What's up, Chicken Salad? What's going on, boy?
So I lost 50 pounds during that time. And I went to I was a best man at my best friend's wedding. Mm-hmm. And just the contrast between those two photos of, Tubbs McGee and, guy who actually started taking care of himself. They were just a dramatic shift. And I hadn't even started working out then. One of my very good friends, Mike, shout out to Mike Ewell. He invited me. He kind of forced me to go work out with the guys, the Gaines Bros, we call ourselves. The
Gaines Bros.
Yeah, the Gaines Bros. The Brotherhood of the Gaines. And so we went to the gym, and I absolutely loved it. So I was a triathlete growing up, and mixed martial arts, baseball, swim, golf, football. I did a bunch of different athletic stuff. I always loved it. It was a huge part of my life. Mm-hmm. And so, go ahead.
So sort of like tie this sort of arc together.
Let's.
No, this is good. This is good. I like this, and I think you're hitting on the important areas too, where it's like finances, fitness, like general mental health. Spiritual life probably is in there as well.
Oh yeah, that's kind of the most important one.
Definitely,
yeah. I can kind of go over the
definitely.
Yeah,
but it's like, and the reason that you're telling this story is like you were in this place, and there was a call. Yeah, there was some sort of catalyst in most guys' lives, because I've had similar experiences too, where I've been like in a place, meet somebody amazing, and I'm just like, wow. Like, I have to look at myself and be like, wow.
It's a real gut check.
There's a huge delta.
Yeah.
Huge gap between, like, the kind of guy she would respond to and who I am.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a catalyst for, okay, I need to step my game up.
Yeah. I when people say that, a lot of times people will have the response of, oh, no, you're good enough just the way you are. And I think that, first off, that's super cliche. Secondly, that is a terrible advice to give to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're good enough and you're miserable and this is where you are and this is good enough, what can you possibly do to improve?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And what it does is it sells everybody short when you tell someone, oh, you're good enough just the way that you are. It's like, no, you're probably living dramatically underneath where
your potential
is.
Yeah.
You know, and the actualization of potential is what gives meaning to action. You know, what a lot of people are doing is they're complaining a lot about the women that are, you know, turning them down.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes like this. Well, I asked her out and she turned me down. It's like, well, maybe I don't make enough money, or, you know, I'm a little bit not in shape, or, well, it's like, yeah, what kind of girl wants to date a guy who's, you know, super overweight, doesn't take care of himself, doesn't have a good job, who's eating Cheetos in his basement while he's, you know, watching porn? Like, screw that guy.
Sure.
You know, a lot of times when a woman turns a guy down, it's because she doesn't think that he could make a good father or a good spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the reason, that's the best reason. And she's right to do so, and she should do it. Mm-hmm. Because what it does is it forces men to improve.
Mm-hmm. And just because you have a good job, just because you are in shape, does not make you good father material. Like, those are two good things, and they're desirable by, like, most women, I would say. But, like, what's the core of
the core, I think the core of masculinity is this idea of provision.
Okay.
Right? And so you can measure the quality of man through his generosity. That's something that I really believe. So when you look at the provision or the nature of man within a marriage, okay, what does he need to do? He needs to provide for his family. Objective statement. Mm-hmm. What is he providing? Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, he needs to be the spiritual head of the household.
Yep.
Okay. And, you know, I'll just say a lot of women don't like that. It's like, oh no, they should be working together. Well, there's a nature of responsibility that belongs to the man that is not also imparted to the woman. Mm-hmm. Right. And so there are dozens of studies that have gone over this, where if a single mother raises a child in the faith, the likelihood of that child leaving is something like 8 times higher. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not exactly the statistic.
I've heard this statistic quoted. I want to say it's like if the mother is Catholic and the father isn't, the children are like maybe 60%.
The children just don't go.
Yeah.
But
if the father is.
But if the father is and the mother isn't,
yeah,
the children almost always remain. Mm-hmm. And it seems almost backwards because, you know, they're spending so much time with their mother that, you know, it's nurturing, but the roles are different. Mm-hmm. You know, they're both necessary and they're both compatible. Mm-hmm. You know, but it is different where the father must be the spiritual head of the house.
And just sort of playing into this, like this, because I have heard and I've even ascribed to or subscribed, whatever one of those words. I've even held the opinion before, like, oh, it should be a balancing act, but I heard someone frame it for me recently.
Sure.
In terms of like spiritual leadership in the household.
Yeah.
It's like the husband is the leader, like a servant leader.
Yeah.
Like understands sort of the needs of his family and is like, okay, I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and not just like you do this thing because I said so. And then the wife's interaction with that, she's more of like an advisor or like a consultant. He can like go to her for advice and be like, hey, this is something that I'm not sure how to lead our family in this way, and I need your input on this.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, he's the one who sets the direction.
Yeah. So the Christian understanding of leadership is not a man who, you know, is, you know, sitting on the throne, you know, whipping,
barking orders. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the leadership in the Christian perspective is he's the man at the front who everything is tied to him, and he's pulling forward.
Yes.
You know, or pushing forward rather. And
he's
so
Aragorn at the gates of Mordor.
He's Aragorn at the gates of Mordor. You know, bring it on.
Yeah.
My heart's beating. You know, but that's the call. That's the call of every man, is to be on the front lines in that sense.
Yep.
You know, and so you also need to provide financially. And so, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. I don't make bad money, you know, but it's like, okay, do I make enough money in which I could provide for, you know, a family It's like 1 kid, yeah, probably. 2, yeah. 3,
Get a little, maybe.
And so, I mean, yeah, career trajectory is another thing, but it's, okay, well, what if the Lord decides to give us, 7 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Shoot. I don't think I could do that. Mm-hmm. So what every guy needs to be doing is he needs to be able to provide not just for his own salary, hypothetically, but also for his wife's. I mean, let's look at the trajectory of the world right now. I mean, you have the alphabet people and all this transgender garbage, that's going on in our school system. It's, I used to say I would never want my kids to be homeschooled ever because, they're socially inadequate. There's a lot of problems. They don't have an opportunity for sports. They're not going to learn discipline. I wouldn't want to, shield them from the world like that. You also need to, put your people in danger in order for them to learn how to overcome it. In a microcosm, it might be a bully. You teach them to overcome the bully. The problem is it's not their equal that they're going against. It's this entire ethos that's fundamentally satanic. They're not prepared for that. And so I would never want to put my children in that type of situation.
And so this ties into protection too.
Ties into protection and provision.
There are social ills. There are paths of sin that your children can get sucked into if you're not there shielding them from them. And I love how you frame that, because I also I was homeschooled K through 8. And something that I like
so much.
What's that?
That explains so much.
Thanks, man. Cheers, bud.
Cheers, bud. Love you.
Yeah, love you too. And I do feel some of the social awkwardness thing. I definitely felt like I was behind coming into high school. But at the same time, it was good to be in that place at that time, starting to learn the ropes. Because I felt like I had, I guess I'm using this word loosely at the time because I didn't have a ton of maturity, but I had enough to start engaging in those spaces. Versus now, the idea of putting a kid through high school. I don't know. I would be more open to homeschooling kids because of all of the nonsense that's out there that you just went.
Well, high schoolers they're combative and rebellious by nature, so it almost would be good to put them in that situation. But the problem is when you're just trying to figure out your identity, and you want to have that safe place to grow.
Because like you said earlier, a bully is one thing. Because that requires there's a certain response that you can take. But when it's an organizational setup where someone's oh, this person identifies as XYZ, and they have not only this person to contend with, but then teachers and staff and social media and all that, it's well, my parents are saying this, but everyone else is saying this, so maybe my parents are wrong.
And so that foundation is shaken. And so, the high school I went to is no longer the high school that is available now. I think that's true for a lot of us. So anyway, the idea there would be, well, how do I say this? You need to be able to make enough so that your wife wouldn't have to work. To be able to take care of the kids and be responsible for their education. And it depends. Maybe your wife doesn't want to work. Maybe she wants to. Maybe your wife does want to work. Maybe she's a very career-oriented person. There are a lot of women like that are Catholic, and I don't think they get enough respect, actually. I know a lot of guys that really respect women who have a lot of drive, and I think that's fine. But you would need to have an alternative. So being able to find and provide an alternative to the chaos that is, the current education system, absolutely necessary. So, all right, we got that. We have the spiritual and we have the financial. Well, you also need to have that emotional stability because, when your spouse, is carrying children, it's kind of silly, but it's okay, well, you also have the hormonal changes, but you also need to be a pillar for her as well. Not even necessarily just during the hormonal changes during pregnancy, but life is not easy. And to go into a marriage where you're still dealing with all of this trauma that you didn't take care of 10 years ago, that is a recipe for disaster. And unfortunately I'm seeing it more and more where people, they have this idea of marriage of, oh, everything's going to be great. The grace of the sacrament is going to be sufficient in order to solve all of our problems. Grace is sufficient, but grace also builds on nature. And when you're not participating in that grace, and part of that participation in grace is learning how to deal with your emotional trauma. And whether that be minor, thank God that it's minor, or if it's major and you need to go through counseling and, you need to learn how to have coping methods that are,
sustaining.
Sustaining, exactly. So
the way that I like to think about it is like, when it comes to emotional or mental trauma, it's like, you're going to do the work one way or another. Either you do it now and like it just requires your energy and focus and like the negative impacts are isolated to just you. Or you wait until you're actually in a relationship with somebody and then it hurts both you and them. Because they have to watch you and maybe I'm sure there are elements of it where she is going to help you with some of that stuff, but the more that you can get through now, the better.
Exactly. And so, it could be that, the Lord desires that, your spouse is the one that helps you work through some difficulties emotionally. And there probably will be quite a few of those. But at the same time, in the preparation, for marriage, you also need to be doing that as well. And you should not be waiting until you're, dating or in a relationship. You should be doing it now if you're a single guy. Or even a single girl at this point.
Counseling's great.
Go ahead.
Journaling's great. Like research, reading books is great. Exercise is great.
Bring it to the forefront of your mind. Endorphins, they work as painkillers. They're the natural painkillers. And so a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of mental anguish, by working out, they're able to find solace. That's what I found anyway.
Cool. So we've got emotional stability, we've got provision, we've got protection. This feels like a lot of functional, which is good.
Well,
it's
I wanted
important.
to move very much on the practical level.
Yeah, practical's important.
Because I also see a lot of guys and they're like, wow, I'm really prayerful and and I'm doing all of these things. But if you're not, how do I say this? Don't be boring. Be adventurous. Go out there. Conquer some dragons. Slay the beast. Win the princess. All of these things matter too. And so, you can have all of the bases and then just not have anything else.
There's a really good quote by a guy named Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Ralph Waldo Emerson. Oh, Ralphie. Ralphie.
Ralphie.
Yes, I didn't understand it until you said it.
Ralph Waldo Emerson. And the quote is, the thing that you are most afraid of is the thing you most need to do.
Oh, yeah. Say that again because that's kind of dank.
The thing that you are most afraid of is the thing you need to do the most. Or some variation of that.
Yes.
And this sort of ties into your idea of adventure, slay the dragon, get out there, explore the world, expand your territory, so to speak. We're going to bring in a little Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yes.
Talk about chaos and order.
Yes.
Order is this spot around the campfire that you understand, and it's the world that you know. And then outside the campfire is chaos. It's darkness. There's animals, some snarling stuff happening out there. And when we talk about fear, I'm of the belief, and you correct me or add to this as you see fit. I think there are some things that it's okay to be afraid of and areas that you don't need to explore. For example, I'm afraid of demons. I don't like demons, not about it.
Don't be, man. They're just pansies.
I know they're pansies, and we've got but it's an area.
Sure.
So
you don't want to mess around with
you don't want to mess around. No Ouija boards. I don't watch.
Stay away from that crap, dude.
I don't watch horror movies for that reason.
Oh yeah. I don't watch horror movies because I'm a scaredy cat. But
same.
Yeah, I'm just gonna own that. That's
same. But then there's also a level of fear where it's there needs to be a dragon, but there also needs to be gold that the dragon is guarding.
Yeah, or a princess.
Exactly. Line dancing could be a really good example.
Oh yeah.
I am not great at it right now. But I know that being good, just being real, probably looks good to ladies who may or may not be watching.
I'm sorry, say that again. Being what?
Being good at line dancing may or may not be attractive.
It's a demonstration of competence.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a dragon. I might screw up here and people might see me, but then there's also the gold. I might actually crush it.
You might, or you might ask a girl to dance, and and you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Okay, so I saw this girl dancing the other day, and I thought she was gorgeous, and she was. Man, I asked her to dance, we danced, and There was nothing there, man. Lights
Really?
are on, no one's home. And that was a
But
rough.
that's fun though. But like,
It's a little exciting in the sense of, wow, there's nothing here.
but okay. Just I know we've got more to cover here,
Sure.
but I think there's more there than you might have given it credit for.
Go ahead.
Like, granted, she's not like the princess,
Oh yeah,
but like, there's some gold in that interaction.
yeah,
Like you face the dragon,
yeah,
and there was some excitement, and that's great.
yeah.
Like, you're not going to take her on a date, but
Nope.
that's fine. Like, you face the dragon, you expand.
Definitely face the dragon, man. That's tough, man. You got to walk across. You got one thing on your mind. I'm going to ask this beautiful girl to dance. Whew. You go across the room and you ask her to dance. Hi, my name's Jimmy. I'd really like it if maybe you would dance with me.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Please use that voice.
Yeah. Hi. Hi. Yeah. All right. You know what? You got this, man. The mental preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
So we've talked a good amount about, like, these are all things that we as guys can be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that we should be doing all of these things.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about, and now I'll caveat this by saying that we are two men talking about this.
Yes.
And
so we're extremely qualified.
So we're very qualified to
Yes.
talk about what's gonna
about women, right?
Let's talk about the women's side of things.
Sure.
Like, what can the ladies do
Yeah.
to start preparing themselves for their husbands?
Well, it really depends. It's okay. You need to prepare for the life that you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a great diversity with what women seem to be wanting, right? Because you see, at least from my experience, you have a couple of guys where you're like, wow, a lot of girls seem to be really interested in this guy, and he is the most boring dude I've ever met in my entire life. What is going on? What does this guy have, right? And then you see other guys where, like our friend Cody, who is just an absolute specimen of masculinity.
Yeah.
And
He's a
I see a
good-looking
guy
dude.
like that, and I went, yeah, I don't want to hang out with him. No, I don't want to be out with him if we're trying to find dates or something like that.
It's hard to stand next to him.
Oh yeah.
So real quick.
Go ahead.
Today, we're recording this on Cody's birthday.
Yes, we are. Happy birthday, Cody.
Happy birthday, Cody. Love you, brother. So I was standing outside Assumption. We went to Mass at Assumption. There was a bunch of us standing out front.
Yeah.
And I was standing on the walkway, and there's like a little, because there's a little drop off from the walkway down to the wood chips or like the grass next to it.
Oh yeah.
And so Cody comes up. I'm talking with Javi.
Yeah.
What's up, Javi? And Cody comes up, and I'm like, wow, I'm not used to like seeing eye level with you. Yeah. Because he was like standing down in a trench.
he looks like his jaw was carved by the Blessed Virgin Mary, and then
He's granite.
Pure muscle, tall, unbelievably kind and handsome.
He's got that deep voice too.
Got that deep baritone. He can sing,
and he's charismatic too.
Oh, so
like,
charismatic. Yeah.
So how do you know each other? Yeah.
Oh yeah. If a girl was like, you know what, Jimmy, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in you, but your friend Cody, I would be like, you know what? I get that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. I really want him to listen to this just so that he can experience this. Happy birthday, Cody.
Love you, bro.
Yeah.
Love you, bro.
All right, so what can women do in order to prepare themselves for their spouse, right? All right, well, it depends. So there's some women, I feel like they kind of go under the radar. And I feel like there are a lot of different, the problems that women are experiencing. It's like, well, no guys are asking me out. Let's tackle that one first.
Sure.
Okay, well, I think that identifying, because, guys are the initiator. We can say, all right, I'm interested in this girl. I'm going to go and ask her out, right? And that's all well and good. So it's almost like men. We fish with a spear. We have one target in mind, and then we throw the spear. If it doesn't work out, you move on. You throw the spear again. You just keep throwing.
Right.
Women, they fish differently. They fish with nets, right?
Okay.
And so they, you throw your net out there, and then you kind of sift through all of the different fish that you find.
So to sort of put this into like practical sense, like I think the way that I'm thinking of it is a woman fishing with a net is sort of like her going to an event or a party and just interacting with a bunch of people. Like, hey, this is me, this is who I am, and then see which guys are going to start like throwing spears.
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah,
in a sense. Yeah.
And so what they have to do is firstly, you need to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two is this idea. I was actually talking with some friends at a dinner party last night, and we were discussing this idea of how often should a girl say yes to a date, right? And
that's a really good question.
Yeah, I think so too. And I kind of pitched this idea. I think about 80% of the time a woman should say yes to a first date. Now, depending on the scenario, at least in our community, it should be 80, if not 90. But in other communities, I could see it being a bit less.
Sure.
And and here's the reason why. Firstly, you don't really know. Can you really know? Let's say it's your first interaction with somebody, and it's like, well, this guy's interested. This is the type of person that I'm attracting. Maybe just give it a shot. And the thing is sometimes it's not going to work. Actually, a lot of times it's not going to work.
If you think of it this way, like I heard someone say this recently, it's like 99% of the people that you meet in your dating experience are not going to be your spouse.
Yeah.
That takes a ton of the pressure off.
Yeah.
Like, because odds are when you sit down to that first date with somebody, if you've had 100 first dates, odds are this person is not it.
Yeah.
But you're there to like find out and explore.
Yeah.
But knowing that going in sort of takes some of that pressure off.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right. Because it's like, okay, well, just give it a shot, and it's okay. I see this a lot, at least in our Catholic community, where people have been treating first dates like a marriage proposal, and it's like this is a date. Like I don't know. I don't particularly like coffee dates for a first date. I like to go do something exciting. I think it's just more fun.
Sure.
And I feel like by having fun, it's a better way of getting to know someone rather than staring at them, as they awkwardly.
Like we're doing something.
Yeah,
like
you're doing something together. That's a lot more fun.
I really like walks.
Yeah, I think walks are
fresh
great.
air. You're doing something.
You're out and about. There are people around.
Yeah.
You don't want her to feel uncomfortable. So 80% of the time, a woman should be saying yes. In my hypothetical scenario, right? Sure. Go on the first date. See, does this person? And what you're going to be asking yourself is, what are my emotions saying? It's not so much, everyone wants to say it's, is this man? Is he going to be a good man? Is he going to be a good father? Hopefully, you're not even giving a guy a first date if you don't already know that. In our hypothetical scenario, but really, what are your emotions telling you? Our emotions have a way of communicating a truth to our inner self in a way that our intellect does not, right? And I think that a lot of people, they try to move in this more stoic route of, I think this is a good person, so I'm going to go ahead and date them, and we try to say, they're more thinking oriented. I worry about that idea sometimes because it's, you want it to be a little bit more natural.
Can I say really quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been in that situation more times than I care to admit, where it's like, and I feel kind of bad when I'm in that situation.
Sure.
Where it's like, this person is great on paper.
Yeah.
Like she's devout, she's diligent, she's cute.
Yeah.
And my emotions are just like, no. Which is so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so
that is the worst place.
And I feel like a scumbag.
Because you feel like a dirtbag when you're like, you know what? You're everything that I'm looking for, but I don't really like you. I'm just not attracted to you in that way.
Yeah.
And that stinks. Yeah. Like we talk about rejection. Like guys complain about rejection all the time.
Yeah.
But honestly, in my experience, it hurts worse to reject someone than being rejected.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of guys can really learn from that. All right, back to what some women do. Firstly, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Go to parties, go to brunches, especially. Mind what you're wearing, because, in our community, I don't really see this being a problem, but I've seen this as a problem in other places. What you're wearing kind of is the first message to any guy, right? So if you're dressed up and you look like in really, frumpy clothes, it's like, well, I sincerely doubt any guy's going to be interested. If you dress and it's incredibly immodest, on the other side of that, it says I'm an easy target. And a lot of guys will go for that, but none of the higher quality guys will go for that.
Right.
Guys who are looking for, a single night of quote unquote fun, they might be attracted to immodesty in that manner. But anyone who's worth their salt, who's actually looking for a spouse, they're going to be looking for somebody who dresses dignified and modestly. Right.
That's a thought that's really taken root for just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
That's a thought that's taken root for me in the past 3 to 5 years, where it's and I mean, not to be crass, but
Sure.
Instagram has a ton of immodest dress
on it. It's unbelievable.
And I would see nowadays, if I see something like that or stumble across something like that, I'm like, there is no way my wife would be dressing.
Why
like
would you
this.
ever want to date someone?
My
like
wife
that?
would not do this.
Yeah. Why would I ever want a woman who throws herself in that manner?
Yeah.
No chance.
And it's not to say that you can't look good.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between looking good and being immodest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I honestly, at least in our community, I feel like the women in our community absolutely just just crushed that.
Yeah,
well
I think
done.
they do that really
well. Well done, ladies.
Yeah,
you guys
they
are
do really
crushing that.
I agree with that.
They have found the balance between looking really beautiful and modest, without showing off too much.
Yeah,
I applaud you guys. Great job. The other side of that spectrum, though, you gotta flirt. You gotta flirt a little bit. Guys are stupid. Let's be real. Guys are dumb. Okay, and we don't get hints very well. I'm just gonna be honest about this. I think this is a well-known fact. Guys don't get hints. So, a couple of things that you can do: smile, drop the handkerchief.
And when we say drop the handkerchief,
yes,
like that phrase sort of gets thrown around.
Yeah.
Just can you expand on that and like maybe say, okay, you're not.
No, I'm just yeah, drop the handkerchief is kind of this idea of
where does it come from?
Where does it go? Where does it come from? What is this idea of the handkerchief? Actually, you know what? Why don't you explain the handkerchief?
I can.
Why don't you jump in? Yeah.
So I think the handkerchief, it comes. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it comes from like medieval times, where like a woman would carry literally like a piece of fabric.
Yeah.
To games.
Yeah.
I'm drawing most of this from A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. but like if she was interested or wanted to show her favor to a guy, she would literally like take that piece of fabric as this guy steps out on the field and just like whoops.
Oh, you dropped this.
I dropped this.
Yeah. And so what it does is it invites a conversation.
And
right. And it's like you don't want to be ditzy about it. I had a girl do this about a year ago or something like that. And I didn't know what it was. She was like at the gym, and she like left a very important piece of her equipment. I was like, "What is she doing? She's just really stupid." And then I like gleefully picked it up and I went after her. And she's, "Oh, thank you so much. That was so kind of you." And I was like, "Oh, you're welcome." I walk away with this giddy smile on my face. You're an idiot, Jimmy. This is what I mean. But sometimes, you got to hint. Smiling is super important. No guy's going to be interested in a girl if she's just bitter all the time.
There are ways to invite interactions.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be super complex. It could be just like, hey, how are you doing?
Hey,
like,
how you doing?
Spend time around that person.
Yeah.
Make yourself available. There are like other ways, like we're sort of talking about.
I feel like a lot of the women know this, though.
Yeah.
But more overt.
Need us to coach them on it.
Yeah. How to behave like a person 101 with Jimmy and Mathew. Like touching the arm is a good indication.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like thinking about like the fishing metaphor earlier. Yeah. I almost feel like a mirror.
Mirroring, mirroring is really important.
Well, like a physical mirror is what I mean. So like guys fish with spears, but like women are in the water with like mirrors and they're like bouncing light. Yeah. Like, hey, here's something you might want to throw a spear at. You know. I don't know. Does that track?
That was just a weird thing to say, Mathew. I don't know what to do with that.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, let's move over to like women with a lot of dating experience. I think what happens is some of these women there's such a thing as being over pursued. It seems. And so what I've seen happen is, I had a friend of mine who's a woman. She was kind of complaining and really just in a bad spot, and so I was just hearing her out. And a bunch of guys had asked her out. She's very beautiful, and a bunch of guys had asked her out, and she was just not in a place. She had just gone through a breakup, and guys would not stop asking her out. And it was so exacerbating for her because it was like all these guys that they're asking her out, she's rejecting them, and they're getting upset, and like that's a really crappy place to be. And she's like, I'm losing, and she was like losing out on like a lot of like social opportunities. It's just like she wants to be able to heal, and I don't think it's fair sometimes. Like it's really not fair in that regard. Like everyone has like different struggles, but I also this one influencer on Instagram. Someone had sent me this video and asked me for my opinion on it. It was this woman described. She went on something like 130 dates. She said yes to every single guy that asked her out. She went on 130, or almost every single guy that asked her out. She went on 130 dates, and of those 130 dates, 5 got second dates, and 0 got a third date.
Wow.
And what she was doing is she was telling people like, okay, how to get dates, right? And it's like, you know what? I kind of think this is the least qualified person to be discussing this type of thing,
right?
Because if you are getting out, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I would be happy to have my mind changed. But it's like, if you are getting asked out by 130 guys, and you're only giving 5 of them a second chance, not even a second chance, but like an opportunity to go on a second date, are you really giving these guys a chance? Are you really giving them a chance? And then none of them. I mean, I feel like sometimes the expectations are so high that they're actually impossible. And
when you say expectations,
the women's expectations for men.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like the woman who, just using this Instagram influencer as an example, her saying yes to 130 different guys for a first
or something
date,
like that. Yeah.
And then 5 for a second date.
Like, what are you looking for?
Could be an indicator.
135. I mean, I don't know the quality of the guys.
Weren't even like good enough for.
Weren't even good enough for a second
look.
date. 125 guys. You serious?
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe. Is the problem the 130 guys, or is it the one girl?
And did she say yes to every date, or were there other guys that were?
There were other guys.
Straight
I believe, if my memory serves, there were other guys that asked her out, but she said no.
Okay.
But she was willing to say yes a lot, which I do commend her for. That's good.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people, they get into this mentality of, they have this ideal picture of this perfect marriage where, you know, the husband is, you know, he's got a chiseled jawline, he's over 6 feet tall, he makes, you know, $150,000 a year, and, you know, all he wants to do is dote on his wife constantly, and he's absolutely perfect, he never sins, ever. And it's like, that guy's already married, his name is David, and he's a friend of ours, and he's not available anymore. But it's like, yeah, you can be perfect, but it's not so much this. I think we need to transition, and I think guys need to do this too, because guys are just like, I want this, like, this absolute babe who's, you know, blah 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 blah, you know, and she's so kind and so sweet. It's like, yeah, well, they also have emotional baggage, my friend. Where you know, these women, they have this idea of a guy that doesn't exist. And men have this idea of a woman that doesn't exist. And I think one of the things that, this is so cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have to break up with your imaginary boyfriend, and you have to break up with your imaginary girlfriend. Okay? You're not trying to find Superman. Okay? You're passing up Clark Kent, hoping that Superman comes along one day. The idea is not so much to find the perfection, but to build it. Right? Find someone that you find, make it as simple as possible. Find someone that is engaging and fun, you find attractive, and that has the same values as you. Yeah. Go from there. See where it leads. Yeah. And give it a real shot. And I think a real shot, maybe 2 to 3 dates. And after 3 dates, it's like, wow, there's nothing here. Okay, that's fine. You know, even after one date, it's like there's nothing there. But one thing that kind of is a source of frustration for me is I see a lot of really good guys, even in our community. Actually, no, especially in our community, where I see very masculine men, and they have really good jobs. They are able to provide, not just physically, but financially. They have their emotions in order. They're handling themselves with dignity. And they're pursuing women, and they're getting rejected for just God knows what reason. And I think that I don't want to say lower your expectations, but have a more realistic approach. Don't sacrifice the dream, but find someone that you're willing to build it towards that dream.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes that requires you to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. The way to just sort of building off of that.
Sure.
Like something that I heard recently that has been helpful. People, like, you want to think about compatibility and you want to think about chemistry. Yes. So a lot of people are looking for 10 on the chemistry front. And like they want to be north of a 5 on the compatibility front. Yeah. And so what that looks like is, oh my gosh, first date, fireworks, immediate, like this person's amazing and I have all of the feels, all of the fuzzies. Yeah. What this person was encouraging.
Fuzzies are great.
Fuzzies are great. I love the fuzzies. But what this person was encouraging, like flip that. Yeah. Like invert that, where you're looking for someone who's very compatible to you, like same prioritization of faith, fitness, has the same vision for what the future looks like and how they want to raise their kids. Maybe even some similar hobbies, similar values like honesty, kindness, stuff like that.
There's also like different types of relationships. We were discussing this at brunch today, where sometimes they just balance. Sometimes it's a balancing act, you know, between the man and the woman, where, you know, one woman might be really high strung and like really, you know, all over the place, and then the guy's really melancholic, and they balance each other. Yeah. You know, and then you have other types of relationships where it's, you know, they bring out the best. Right. And so I would say, like, you know, the best relationships I've been in have always been people that are able to, I don't want to say match my energy, but match my energy and I'm able to just go and do some things with. Like, I want an adventure, and I think everyone's looking for an adventure. The other thing about first dates, I think both sides of the spectrum need to keep in mind is, you should never go into a first date thinking about another first date. You want that may your next first date be your last. Like, we're playing for the end game here. And so if you're just if you're just dating and dating and dating and you have no intention with it, you're hurting yourself. Firstly, you're also hurting any of the people that you're dating. If you're not taking their emotions into consideration. Now, one thing I think we should kind of, if you're cool with it, switch over to, sometimes things aren't going to go right. Okay. And we
in this whole equation of like
this
asking
whole equation.
and
And like how to deal with rejection, I think is really important. So, hi, my name's Jimmy. I'm a sinful man. I acknowledge that. And part of it is like, okay, as a guy, that pursues women, I've always been turned down.
Same.
It's been happened once or twice.
Only once or twice though.
Yeah. So, okay, the best ways. Let's go. Actually, I'm going to ask you too, Matthew. What are the best ways you've been turned down? I'm going to ask you first. What are the best ways you've been turned down?
Like the kindest or the
one where it was just objectively speaking the best. What are the best ways you've been turned down?
There's one that comes to mind in particular. It was in January of this year. We had been on 2 dates. And I think at that point I was like feeling curious.
Sure.
Not like over the moon. But I was like, let's give this some more time. Like, because it was one of those situations where this woman's great on paper.
Yeah.
Maybe I just haven't like hit my stride in terms of my comfort level with her.
Yeah.
Let's spend some more time. And so called her up, asked for the date, hit her voicemail. So I was like, hey, just call me back when you got a minute.
Yeah.
She calls me back. I asked for the date. Like, I would love to take you on a date, which is important. Like, framing it as
the word date.
Use the word date is really important. And so there was this pause, and she said, you know what? Like, I really am flattered that you asked me. Thank you for that. I don't feel the romantic connection with you, but I want to commend you for like all of the good stuff that you've done in your pursuit of me. Like, you've been a gentleman. Yeah. You've taken care of me. You've been a really good planner, and I really appreciate the thought that you put into all of this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to discourage you from like your future in this endeavor. Like, I think you're still a really good guy.
Yeah.
And that was really good to hear, because sometimes, if I hear a no, it's like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Tell me what I did wrong, and it's not your fault a lot of the time.
Yeah. You could be the sweetest peach, but they may like apples.
Yeah. Literally.
And that's okay. And you have to be okay with that.
That was a great metaphor.
Yeah. I kind of stole that.
I like that one. That's a good one.
I stole that. Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. Actually, similar story and time frame.
Yeah.
Too. This past January, went out with a girl. I thought it went really well. Actually, no, it did go really well. But she just had too much. Her life was too hectic. The thing is like a lot of times women will, they don't want to hurt your feelings, right?
Sure.
And so, they'll say things, maybe exaggerate a little bit here and there so you can let you down easy, right? And so I think for guys, it's really important not to get caught up in the reasons why.
Yes.
Because a lot of times they may be sincere. Mm-hmm. They may just be saying something to make you feel better.
And the intention, it's to focus on the intention is what you're saying. Like,
well, actually, no.
No, okay.
No, what I'm saying is what is the end result, regardless of what they're saying?
Sure.
I kind of believe this sounds a little bitter, but I don't mean this to be bitter, but it's, if she wanted to be with you, she would, regardless of the circumstance. Mm-hmm. So she may have a very good reason, and that very good reason may be legitimate. She said no. Move on.
Sure.
And I think like another thing that's really important is also the preservation of a person's reputation too. So let's say it doesn't go well, right? And it's like, oh, this guy, he smelled really bad on the date and like blah, 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 blah. You don't want to do stuff like that. So there's a sin out there. It's called the sin of detraction, and it can be mortal sin. It's needlessly sharing information that is harmful to another person's reputation. That's true. And that's the caveat. It's a type of gossip. So just be careful and minding of people's reputations, when you're talking about it. So let's see. I mean, there was a while back, I was going for somebody who didn't end very well. Mutually did not end very well.
Sure.
And so, you want to get, you want to like allow your emotions to fester and like have an outlet. And I think it's important to do that. And so instead of, trying to go, one thing I had to like learn was, you don't, not in this scenario, but you have a couple of people that you have that outlet with, but then talk to nobody else about it.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is to cause, her harm or anything like that.
Yes.
You have to go into dating with this expectation of, you know what, we're all trying to find the same thing.
Yeah.
And just because someone may have done something, said something, or fell short, we're all human. We're all going to do it. You have to just, take it, accept it. It is what it is, and you move on. That does not mean that, you have to, be friends with every single person and like go out of your way and stuff like that. Sometimes boundaries are necessary. You wish them the best, you you protect their reputation, and you move on. And this applies to both men and to women. Go ahead. I know you had a thought.
You literally like said everything I was going to say. I'll just reiterate it.
Go ahead.
Have been there, know the experience, and it is a messy equation.
Yeah.
We're all kind of just trying to feel our way through this. I do think like, yes, the end result of somebody saying no or something not working out is like this didn't work out and I do need to move on. I do like that.
Yeah.
I think one thing to keep in mind, assuming the person did let you down in like a reasonable way.
Yeah.
I think remembering that gesture is really important in the coming months as you like think about that person, interact with that person. It's the intention is that they don't like, they know how hard the game is. Like, if he or she like lets you down in that way, it's like, they know how hard the game is. They don't want to let you down. They don't want to discourage you from playing the game.
Yeah.
That I think is really important.
Yeah. So I think part of the reason I brought this up, just to transition ever so slightly,
come back.
Is I wanted to ask about this lovely young lady. But and in the midst of the conversation, I went, "Ooh, she's really not ready." This was, it was kind of rough. She'd having a rough go of it, dealing with some things, and we were, just talking about it. So I was like, all right, we're ending this. We're not ending this conversation in the sense of like, oh, you're the worst, I'm not interested. It's just, we're moving on.
Sure.
And she kind of picked up on that I was interested in her, and she was really upset. And I don't want to say she confronted me about it, but she was like forward about it. She just said, "Hey, I don't know if this is coming out of left field, but like, is this what's going on right now?" And I want to understand, and I was like, and I was just honest with her. I was like, "Yes, I'm interested, but I'm not really like looking to ask you out right now." And she very politely, she almost seemed upset though, because what had happened to her recently was she'd been asked out a bunch of times, and guys were getting really upset. And it's like, guys, you can't be doing this.
You can't do that.
Because what's happening is these women are, it's like, why would you even want to go out on dates if guys are just going to get pissed off, if it doesn't go their way?
That's something like...
Dude, I'm guilty. I acknowledge it.
100%.
Mea culpa. Like,
that's something that happened with the girl who said no to a third date back in January.
Oh, yeah?
Like, she was really nervous to tell me that over the phone.
Yeah.
And there's some, like, a general principle that I try to live by is, like, if somebody does something that you want to see more of, like, notice it and praise it. Yeah, 100%.
Notice it, praise it, award it, everything.
And so, like, if somebody, like, when she sort of finished talking, I was like, that's totally fine. Like, I get it. And, like, thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
And, like, please do this in the future. Do more of this.
Yeah.
Like, because...
I 100% agree with you.
And that's the response that, just sort of bringing it back to what you were saying, as guys... in this process, and like it goes for the girls too, like as humans in this process, when things work out or don't work out and somebody comes to you with that information, that's the frame that we need to be taking. It's like, I appreciate you letting me know. I won't say I'm not disappointed, something like that. Yeah. But like, I wish you nothing but the best. And like, I want to encourage you as you like continue this.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you need space too, you need to take space. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So for women, I would say the best advice I could give is just be very, very direct. Look, the best way I would say the best rejection I've ever got was person XYZ, can I take you on a second date? I'm sorry, but I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm. That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
I was like, Okay, we're good.
That's it.
I was like, oh well, fair enough. All right. Well,
I know. I know we have more thoughts on. I know we have more thoughts on rejection, but
Yeah.
just something that I really like on that.
Yeah.
You've seen Moneyball, right? Or like the movie?
You and Moneyball, bro.
I love Moneyball.
You love Moneyball.
I love Moneyball so much. It's such a good book, such a good movie. There's a bit in the movie where Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill are like talking to each other.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt's like, I need you to go let this guy go. Like, just cut him from the team.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill's like, oh, what?
Right.
What? I can't do that. And Brad Pitt's like, yeah, sure you can. Like, practice on me right now. And Jonah Hill goes like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I really appreciate you and all of the time that you've spent on the team. And for the record, like, I do think that validating men or women in the dating process when you're like separating is really important. Like, I still think you should do that, but don't drag it out.
Don't drag it out.
In this interaction, Jonah Hill's like, I really appreciate what you've been doing for the team. I really appreciate all the practice and all the hits you've gotten. Da da da. And Brad Pitt's like, what are you doing? Like, do you want to, like, if someone was going to shoot you with a gun, would you rather them shoot you 5 times in the chest and bleed out? No.
One time in the head.
One time in the head, please.
One time in the head.
Like, you're going to the Philadelphia Phillies. We've traded you for pitcher Kurt Schilling.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. See you later.
Yep. Yeah. Ah, it's brutal. She just sees you as a friend.
What's up, Tim? What's up, Mike?
Yep. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, don't drag it out. Just, I'm really sorry, but I'm not interested. I think you're a great guy. You know, I don't see this working.
Yes.
You know, that's it. That's all you really have to say. If the guy, you know, presses on, you know, and he demands a reason, basically, guys, don't be a jerk about it.
Right.
Just take it.
Yep.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations and well done for putting yourself out there.
Yep.
You know, the type of people who get hurt are the people who take risks.
Mm-hmm.
And the type of people who find their spouse are the people who take risks.
Yep.
And so
this is part of the equation.
This is part of the equation. This is the game that we're playing.
Yep.
It's a tough one, but it's the game. Good luck.
Good luck and Godspeed. I appreciate this framing that we're like sort of taking with rejection right now.
Yeah.
And I know I've been in like, this is me showing maybe a little immaturity on my side. I've been in situations where someone has said no and it's like changed how I've seen that person in future interactions.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've really had to, and granted, like,
you are no longer an objective source on this person.
Right.
On the person that hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that like I had to be aware of and like even take some distance from that person for a while until I could sort of like, okay, no, this person is objectively X, Y, and Z before I like.
Yeah.
So like you said, if I or somebody else, like if you're having those feelings about someone who just said no, if there's like resentment festering, like that's something that you need to take to prayer. That's something
you got to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is probably indicative of more than just this one person saying no.
Yeah, and a lot of times this is where a lot of guys are falling short right now. A lot of my lady friends, you know, they've been complaining about this, and I can see it, man, and it actually really hurts them too. It's like, well, I gave you a chance, you know, and it's, you say, oh, guys need to date more, but then when we do, you know, go out with them, and then it does, like, I'm not interested. You know, how is that fair if you're going to respond in like that negatively? Now, that's not to say, you know, women should lead men on, you know, or do the other thing, the yes no thing, where they agree to a date and then cancel the next day. It's like,
yeah, that's tough.
The worst thing you can do to someone is to give them hope. It's not the rejection that hurts; it's the hope. And when you're go, wow, this is really great, you know, and yeah, like let's go ahead and meet again at this restaurant. Oh, by the way, no. It's like, no, don't have us meet at the restaurant and tell me, you know, just tell me, you know, that way it's, you know, the hope isn't still there, you know, because that way you're not setting yourself up or setting up another person for pain.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. Surround yourself with friends that are willing to correct you.
Okay.
You know, friends who are willing to say, wow, Jimmy, I'm really sorry that she hurt you. You need to apologize. You're an asshole. Or you were a jerk. You need friends like that. You know, having those friends that are willing to correct you and to hold you to, you know, a higher level are absolutely necessary. I had one the other day where my best friend, Joshua, he told me one day, he goes, you know, buddy, I really want to see you get married and I know you're really hurt right now. because this is like another girl that didn't work out, and you got excited for her, and you don't want to fall in love with a girl and then ask her out. You ask her out and then you fall in love, right? Because what ends up happening is you get all of these, this hope, these mentalities, this idea in your head that's based in falsity. You got to let that die. Go in and do things properly. There's a reason why we have all of these traditional means of pursuit, and it's like a dance. And part of that dance is man approaches a woman. He has to overcome his fear. He asks a woman out, and he demonstrates, his ability to communicate. He asks her out, and he provides for her a nice meal. He demonstrates his ability and willingness to provide. He ensures that she's brought home safe and sound. Demonstrates his protection. So all of these are microscopic interactions. And then you build on that. But if you're going in, oh, she's the one, dude, you are setting yourself up for failure. This is another thing I'm seeing a lot of the guys fall into. And it's not a good recipe. I know that's something I had to learn beginning of last year, pretty roughly. Yeah. But it has to happen. Well, the end of the year before. So, let me ask you, Mathew. It seems like I don't want to say you're successful in this arena, but you're very confident. And one thing I really admire about you is you're actually willing to ask out women. And the women that you're asking out are agreeing to go out with you. Which, firstly, you're the man. Secondly,
thanks, ladies.
Yes,
thanks, ladies.
Yes, indeed. It's what are you finding when you ask out? Because it's like is the baseline just I'm curious about this person, or is the baseline okay? I find you're obviously very healthy. You're very attractive. Yeah. You're a lot of. I enjoy speaking with you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm able to have fun and banter with you. If I'm able to have fun and banter with someone and I find them attractive and we have the same values, I'm going to ask them out every time. Yeah. What have you been finding when you're going to ask out just like the curiosity level, which is slightly lower than what I'm describing?
Yeah, I would say because like you sort of hit on three different sort of points there. There's attraction, there's friendship, and then there's values. Yes. So if we're talking about someone who's your wife, ideally those are all like as high as they can be. Attraction, values, and friendship. Like they've all been built over time. Sure. For someone that I'm curious in, I'm looking for, I hesitate to use the word diluted, but like initial stages of those things where it's like, I enjoyed our conversation. That's a friendship indicator for me. Yeah. Like if I have an interaction with someone, I'm like, wow, that was good talking with them. I liked what she brought to the table in terms of like ideas. We laughed a little bit, whatever. That's a really good indicator. And it doesn't have to be like something super deep. Like we had a good conversation. Attraction, the phrase, and this might sound a little callous, but like the phrase that I like to use is above threshold of attraction. So what that means is like, as long as I think that she's cute or like, I think that I don't think she has to be like gorgeous. Yeah. But hey, like I see these things about the way that you're presenting yourself physically, and I like this, I like this, and I like this. If I find more likes than dislikes, cool. That's a check.
Go for it. Yeah. And what's cool is like your attraction to her is usually typically based in beauty. Yeah. Right. And so initially it's just going to be that physical, like the way that she presents herself. Yeah. But over time, the manner in which you perceive her will be that representation of beauty will grow over time. Yep. And that's why every husband, every good Catholic marriage, it's always like, my wife is unbelievably beautiful. Well, you've known her for 30 years, and she might not be objectively like, but what happens is I really believe that women demonstrate God's quality of beauty in a manner in which men don't. And I'm not just saying that as a dude. Okay. I really think that they were made that way. So that men would sacrifice for them, and it would teach all of us, that hierarchy of love.
The beauty of women is inspirational. Yeah. It's true.
It's worth sacrificing for.
Yeah. It's the catalyst. It's the call to adventure. Yeah. It's like aim higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, tell you what though. When you get rejected, man, that hurts.
You were not Jordan Peterson coming back.
Yeah.
You were not all that you could be.
You're not all that you could be.
That's what that means.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah.
Well, when a woman rejects a man, I mean, this is another Peterson quote. I love that guy.
He's so smart.
He's such an alpha lobster.
Yeah.
Another Peterson quote is, it's like, all the women are turning me down. Well, is it the problem all the women, or is it you?
Because you're the commonality across all those equations.
Yeah. And it's like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe you are a pathetic loser who needs to get their life together.
Now, yes, I agree with that statement. And I think that a rejection should be cause to look at yourself and be like, how can I improve? I think you should do that always.
Yes.
But then I also think that looking at yourself should not result in, I suck on every front. That should not be the conclusion when you get rejected. You should be able to look at yourself and be like, I am doing well here. I am doing well here. I am doing well here. I could improve here. Be objective with yourself. So don't puff yourself up, but also don't put yourself down. Like, be as objective as you can be. I do need to grow in this space.
Yeah. Ooh, I think we found a slight disagreement there, Mathew.
Okay.
I think it's appropriate to say, you know what? Well, I'm going to frame it a little differently.
Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely appropriate to recognize how badly we've failed, or at least I'll make it about myself in this case. How badly I have failed, right? And I remember I had a conversation with Corinne the other day, Corinne and Zach, and I was saying, like, yeah, if where I was a year ago, let's say like a guy who was exactly like me wanted to date my sister, would I be okay with that? Or date my daughter, would I be okay with that? And I had to take that second to think about it, and I said, honestly, no. I think that I'm still falling short of a man that I would want to marry my daughter or to pursue my daughter.
Okay.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. But what it does is it forces you.
If that's the frame.
Yeah. It forces you to improve.
Yeah.
And the whole point here, even the whole point of this podcast is, how can we prepare ourselves for our spouse? You know what? You might strike out 1,000 times. Keep swinging. All you got to do is hit one home run, Prepare yourself for marriage. Sacrifice. Be awesome.
That's awesome. I feel like it's a really good way to sum it up. What's your deadlift at these days?
My deadlift is at 530 right now.
Jimmy, it's been really awesome having you on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me on there, Mathew. You're a stud muffin. And I enjoy your company.
Likewise, brother. Thanks again.